I was going to say let's kick this off, but it's supposed to be a Db2 Product Watch, so it's going to be an open session. Feel free to unmute yourselves, switch your cameras on. It's a low-key affair. I had invited ISV reps from across the planet to come and join and announce new functionality to their Db2 products. So we have Stephen Solomon from BMC. We've got Atul from BMC CompuWare. Clive's just joined. Don't know whether you've got anything to say. Tom Crocker was invited, so was Karen of IBM. And we've yet to see anybody from Broadcom join. So I'll give it a few more minutes before I ask Stephen Solomon, who's woken up at a ridiculous hour this morning, all the way from Arizona to kick off the product watch with what BMC have got to offer. So open the floor to Stephen in a few more minutes. In the meantime, I'll have a few more crisps.
And if you have questions, you guys can send something in the chat or post something to me directly, and I can respond to via chat also. So can I make a pitch for Arizona, Marcus?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's a lovely place. So we're in the west and the southwest, next to stuck between New Mexico and California. We have multiple climates. So Arizona is not just desert. We have one of the largest pine forests in the United States that people don't usually think about, and the Grand Canyon, which seems to be one of the big attractions that everybody comes to. And if you're into new wave and crystals, then Sedona, Arizona is kind of the home of that, because we have these beautiful pink mountains and rocks, and the sunsets, and I live up by Sedona, and the sunsets here are absolutely amazing. So I do highly recommend, if you get a chance, visit my home state. I live in the heart of Arizona wine country, which is nobody's ever heard of. But since I've actually visited a winery in England, I think it's always kind of fun to visit, you know, something like that, like a brewery or distillery or a winery in the places that you visit, because that represents the local tour and everything. And so a great place to spend a few days or a week.
So yeah, go on then, Stephen. Off you go.
All right. I will give it a shot.
I will make you a co-host so you can share your screen.
All right. And now you'll have to tell me if it is sharing.
Yep.
All right. So we've done a lot of things at BMC, and Marcus was going to give me 10 minutes. So I had chosen to talk about the DevOps initiatives that we've been working on and why we've been working on them. Hopefully you've seen this somewhere in GSA UK, is the BMC mainframe survey. This is a great survey. It shows continuing commitment to the mainframe. So BMC surveys as many mainframers they can find, and hopefully you guys participated in it this year, if not next year. And it's the 16th consecutive year, and we've seen continued growth and commitment to the mainframe. And importantly, for DBAs and application developers dealing with databases, we see an increased rate of database usage, changes, and growth. So 59% of respondents have a increased rate of database object change.
Hiya, I had a missed call. It's my partner.
Hello. And 51% have reported an increased rate of application change. So we continue to see the mainframe being that heart of IBM's hybrid cloud mission and vision. And we think that having DB2 in the middle of it, or even IMS, if you're an IMS shop, is really the heart and soul, because what the mainframe does better than any other platform is process large amounts of data. We have customers that have billion-row DB2 tables, and you can put 1 trillion rows in, and we're looking for the first customer to hit that boundary. Is it next year or 9 years from now? Somewhere, but we continue to grow. So there is a link to the survey that I'll post in the chat that I do recommend that you pull down. It is great for you to share, and to share with management, especially anybody who says, oh, the mainframe, that's old. Not at all. It continues to grow and continues to improve. But then what we need to do is, then we decided that what we want to do is, especially for DB2, we want to tie it into a modern DevOps tool chain. And when we started building out tools, we started realizing that there were generations of tools and different types of tools. And these are the ones that you're probably most common with. So in stage one, it was spoofy. So when I first created my first DB2 table back last century, we'll call it, spoofy was the thing to do. You jump in and do it. Stage two was DBA tools. Now, all the vendors have some DBA specific tools for BMC. That's like our change manager, our catalog manager, all of the tools that we have that help automate and improve DBAs. Stage three, and I'm going fast through these stages, but I can go more details if you guys have questions, was more on recovery. And this is where you start doing automated deploys, and you're building out all of the automation jobs that you need to deploy changes and to back out those changes if they go upside down, and have full recovery, so that you can make sure that all your tables and databases are recoverable, that you have a good sync points in time, and that you can simulate recoveries to say for SLA management. Yes, I know my bank has a 4-hour recovery window. I've tested my recovery and it runs in 2 hours, so that you can show to auditors that you meet the SLAs. What has been innovative, and where BMC has been working a lot this last year, is in stage 4 and 5. We actually had been working on stage 5 DDL DevOps, which is applying schema changes to your environment, for quite a while. But every time we'd go talk to folks like GSE UK and directly to customers, and several UK customers, by the way, gave us this direct feedback and said, hey, this is really great to automate the DBAs, but what can you do to help us keep bad SQL out of production? And so this year we launched a new solution to do that. So why don't we jump in and talk about stage 4, and because we think this is innovative and something very, very different. So the DBA feedback was, look, we spend all this time going into production, and then we find these problems, and then we have to go send a request back to the application development team, and it falls in a black hole, because that app development team is now working on other goals and other projects, right? And so going back and having to do the rework is very expensive, and it doesn't really get done as much as it should. So what can we do to identify bad SQL during the development lifecycle? And then what exactly is bad SQL? Well, bad SQL is bad if it doesn't perform in the environment that it's working in. So if you've got really badly structured SQL and you're running in very small tables, the performance is probably just going to be fine. But when you start escalating up and you've got 1 million rows or 1 billion rows, then everything you're doing with joins and indexes matters. So what we've created is a solution that you can interrogate your SQL during the development lifecycle. You can do standard, what we call like lint testing, which looks at the syntax and says, is this a good syntax? And it's something that you might be able to do with SonarQube, but their testing is very limited. We took all of the best of the minds, like out of Marcus's head, and stuffed it into this product and said, what is it that makes good SQL versus bad SQL? What can we warn application developers about? And especially new developers to the mainframe. And maybe what you have is a web developer and they're coming in through dynamic SQL to the mainframe and they don't really understand DB2 at all. Can we do this for static and dynamic SQL? And yes, we can. You can do these scans during development, either at every compile. You would, for your distributed folks that have a DevOps toolchain, look and see when you're running SonarQube and giving feedback to the developers. Maybe it's at every compile, maybe it's at your promotion from development to unit test to system test. And you can have different sets of rules by your environment. And one of the great things it can do is we can copy the run stats from production. Let's say you're in systems test, copy it into systems test, then run the rules, and then we can evaluate how that SQL is going to run in that environment. So this can either be initiated off of the mainframe, or it can be used. There are Jenkins plugins available. So if you're doing a DevOps pipeline, you can do it into your Jenkins pipeline, or you can run it and submit it off of the mainframe. So this is what a DBA or administrator would see. They use our Command Center product, which is a web-based UI that fully interacts with DB2 on the mainframe. But this is also where you would set up the rules, because some of the things that we learned is that we have about 120 SQL rules that we ship. You can create your own. There are some rules that you can say this maybe shouldn't be an error, it should be a warning in your environment. That's fine. You downgrade it and we'll just issue a warning. But there's also all of that stuff that's amassed out in production for the last 30 years, you're not going to go back and change. So what you can do is you can create violations to ignore that basically says for this package or this application, you know what, these things were bad habits, but like select asterisk, right? Maybe, you know, that application never changes. It's pretty much stabilized. You're not going to go back and change it. Go ahead and put it into the violations to ignore. So it only generates warnings and says, you know, this is not a great practice, but it would not stop your DevOps process. And that is another key thing, is that if you're using it like a Jenkins workflow, you can actually do things like Sonar and say, hey, you know, this is so bad that we don't want to go to the next step. You need to go back and fix it before you move up the line in your route to live. So your DBAs can use the administration panels. From a DBA or administrator, you can look at what violations are occurring and which has been logged, and you can see what are the common things. It really elevates then a DBA from doing performance management post facto in production, trying to get things fixed after they're released, to being more of a manager of a process, so that it helps develop your application developers to write better SQL, and much easier on the administrator than to set the rules and to run through them. This is what your developers would see. They would get an email out of the process that says, hey, this is your SQL. And by the way, this is static or dynamic. So static is pretty easy. We can go ahead and interrogate the sys packages. For dynamic, you have to run your SQL analysis right after you run your test. So you execute your program. So if it's a web-based transaction, it comes in with dynamic SQL. We grab all the SQL out of the dynamic statement cache, and then we run the rules against that. And so it helps develop your engineers to write better SQL and gives them their best practices and standards. SQL assurance, pardon me, I'm going to back up one thing, is this package is available as part of the BMC SQL performance solution, which means if you have AppTune or SQL Explorer from BMC, this availability of SQL assurance is provided for free at no additional charge. So the SQL performance for DB2 packed solution, if you have that, literally you know it probably because you have AppTune and SQL Explorer. This SQL assurance technology is available to you for free for no additional charge. Now, we do have a chargeable product, and it is DevOps for DB2. And so database DevOps then moves schema changes. So what happens is, we had several leading groups, and one of them in the UK come to us and say, look, we're doing this thing where we're allowing application developers to create their own tables in the lowest level. And what we need to do is propagate those changes through, but we need to have automation to do that. And it's kind of different because in the United States, typically application developers on the mainframe don't have the ability to do that. And so we started reaching out to different DBAs and getting feedback. And we said, okay, what would you need if you did? And we started finding out that those customers that are doing that are seeing huge gains in productivity, because what happens is, especially in the lowest level of development, a developer will say, I need a table. And then they'll say, oh, well, I need this other column added. Okay, I'm in development. I really should drop this column, but I don't even want to bother to go to the DBA for that because it will take 3 days for them to do that. Oh, geez, I should have created this as varchar rather than char. Little things like that don't get done because there's typically a 3-day SLA from app developers into DBAs to get these kind of changes done. So you actually get faster development, more complete development, and the DBAs then can monitor it. And then before it moves into the next environment, they can have full control and say, yes, this is right or this is wrong. So what would you need as a DBA to manage that process? That is what we've built into our DevOps for DB2 process. It is enabled with Jenkins and IBM Urban Code Deploy and HCL Launch plugins that you can add into a modern DevOps toolchain. And this past October, so this month, we are happy to say that we put in a full set of schema standards. So this is what's new in this, is that in addition to moving everything, just like we have SQL assurance, it has 120 rules that look at SQL to identify bad SQL. Well, when you're looking at database schemas, what your buffer pool standards are, that's going to be unique for you. What applications should only create UTS tables going forward. Those can be a standard rule, but maybe it's by application. So what this new technology is actually a rules engine that allows you to create the rules. We ship, a half dozen or so rules, but everything else, then you can code in there as a DBA administrator. Even such things as, this database has to be defined in this database over here because that's how we do authority, responsibility, and who owns it. And it needs to be defined in this other database before it can move through the lifecycle. You can define all kinds of rules. It's very, very flexible on a rules engine. What DevOps for DB2 does use is it uses our Change Manager product on the mainframe. And Change Manager is this amazing product for DBAs in that when you're applying changes, let's say that you have 10 table changes that you're doing, you can put them all in. Change Manager will figure out exactly what needs to happen to apply the changes. If you have to drop a table as part of this change, it will generate all of the JCL to unload the table, drop the table, apply all the change, or create the table, load the table. If you're using DB2 security and there's grants that have to be done, it will do all of that. It will do all of the work for you, and it generates all the install JCL and all the backout JCL. So by leveraging all of these plugins in a DevOps lifecycle with the power of Change Manager, you can do some great automation as a DBA and really automate your DevOps pipeline to fully include DB2. This is what it looks like again, Command Center from a DBA point of view. And then these are some of the sample rules, but basically you would go in as administrator and you'd say, in my world, I want one table per table space. I want my buffer pools to be this. I want my index quantities to be defaulted to this. And then, it also works for the DBAs when you're bringing in new DBAs to make sure that everybody is coding to the same set of standards. You can run these checks against your production environment and see, or your development environment, and see how far you are off from the standards as well. And so there's quite a bit of technology here. So this is just my 10-minute highlight of what's new with BMC with DevOps for DB2. By the way, for GSA UK, we have a lot of IMS tools also. So if you're an IMS user, don't hesitate to reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with that team that can talk with you about IMS for DB2. And I do believe there was a GSA UK session yesterday where that was covered. So there's also in the recording. So very quick, everybody has some kind of modern DevOps toolchain lifecycle. So yours probably is not going to look identical to this, but in the BMC CompuWare and space, what we did was we took all of the integrations they do and we plugged in where we're doing database management. So the one thing I do encourage you to look at is if you're not doing DB2 DevOps today, get a copy of your DevOps toolchain. What is the flow that you're looking at? And what can you do to plug that in, because you'll have faster delivery with higher quality if you do. So code quality, we see that the same as like SonarQube. SonarQube tends to look at your source and generate it. And then we have added database change management into an integrated lifecycle. All right, that was my quick 10 minutes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Marcus, I had a question about
Yeah.
BMC products. I'm not sure Stephen's the best person to answer it, but I'll ask it anyway. I'm working on migrating from BMC Unload Plus for DB2 to BMC AMI Unload NG2
Yes.
Util. And the system programmers have decided to install the new product into two separate libraries because we want to work on Smart Switch to enable us to migrate things seamlessly. I was looking at using the ZOS feature IEF OPZ to use the new library instead of the old one, but now I've got two new libraries I can't. I'm just wondering if there's anyone on today that's been migrating from the old product to the new, that I might be able to pick their brains offline.
And
Anyone?
Paul, you are correct. You have gone beyond my knowledge. My peer John Berry does the utility side. I do all of the development tools like Change Manager, Catalog Manager, DevOps. So I'm
Yeah.
not able to answer your question. So I don't know if anybody else can. Jim D, if you are on a session with him, probably would be able to know the difference. And your question was basically what we call the plus utilities and our AMI or AMI set of utilities, and the
Yeah.
migration between them and using Smart Switch to help upgrade. Because you should still see quite a bit of CPU savings when you do the upgrade, but on the option you're
we've
looking at.
seen massive savings.
Oh.
Yeah, but I just wanted to try and migrate everyone's jobs without them having to change lots of things. Okay,
yeah.
Let's move on, Marcus. Thank you.
What you could do is drop me an email, and I know the guys who actually develop the or work on support for the AMI utilities, so I will ask them that question.
Okay, cheers, Marcus.
Any other questions about Stephen's presentation on BMC, AMI DevOps or DB2?
I guess the cheap and easy question that I've got, probably applies to most vendors, would be around how are you seeing Apollo coming along? Do you have any concerns in your tool set, or do you have any thoughts about what it would mean to your products as we go into Apollo, I guess, hopefully next year?
Colin, thank you for that question. And yes, this is important for everybody that works with DB2 on the administration side. So DB2 Apollo is the new release of DB2 that is targeted for next year. So I would have to say, if the IBM folks are on the call, thank you so much for working with us. We've been able to work very closely with IBM so far on the features that they're putting in. I'm under NDA, so I can't tell you about them. But if you reach out to IBM, I'm sure they'll be able to share some more information on that. They have done what is called integration points, where they have dropped us a version. So we have a version of DB2 Apollo. It's not yet finished. It's not fully baked. It's an incremental version that was dropped. We have been running through the testing there. We've been looking at the changes and how they impact each product. You asked if we're concerned. For the drops that we have so far, we are not overly concerned. For the next one that's coming out before the end of the year, we've looked at the features that are scheduled to be deployed. We're very happy with them. And that right now that we are doing well. There is more that will be received next year. We've looked at the early draft of the features that IBM has shared with us, and they all look good to us. So right now we are running parallel tests with what we're doing with DB212 and DB2 Apollo. And right now, I think we're not overly concerned. There are some benefits. I think, if I was going to generalize it for IBM, there's a lot of scalability features that you would expect in a new release of DB2 that will help everybody run even bigger tables and more data. But we have, if you are part of the sponsored user program with IBM, I do encourage you to reach out to me, and we can talk about features that you're sponsoring and which products you need those enabled in first. So if you were a sponsored user, you're helping drive those features into DB2. If you just have questions and you'd like to talk about, okay, you're planning your roadmap for upgrades for next year, what order should I do what? Then I do encourage you to reach out to me or drop a note to Marcus. We can set up a one-on-one meeting, and we can talk about where you're at in the life cycle. The one thing I would say is try to get your DB2 environment up to current, so that you're prepared to take on the new DB2 Apollo. So that means no more DB210, DB211, right? You got to get up to 12, and there are different levels, and I believe it's 508 is probably where you should be working to get to 510 to put yourself in a position to upgrade to DB2 Apollo when it comes out. But it depends on where you are, and if you're a sponsored user, how much I can share with that. But if you do have questions, reach out to me, reach out to Marcus. We're happy to talk to you on more of a one-on-one and talk about more individual upgrade issues and challenges.
Hi, yep, it's Tom here from Rocket Software. Sorry for being a little bit late, but things overran. On the Apollo side, we have full plans for day one toleration and exploitation for many products, because some of them certainly aren't changing. And we're in good shape. Our roadmap's fully mapped out for next year. And this is our number one priority. So fully expect to see everything there by then.
Well, thanks both. Well, talking of Tom, I'd like to welcome Tom from Rocket Software.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to share?
Yes, I do. I was just about to do a live demo, but it seems to have gone away.
Oh, the wonderful curse of doing a live demo. Suddenly everything breaks. Has been working fine for the last 10 years.
So I got a security, my certificate didn't work. So I'm just sorting something else out. So the main things, as you may have noticed, we released with IBM something called Admin Foundation early in the year, which is again a follow-on from our experiences, our use of Zoe as a modernization UI user interface. And what this gives you is, he says, still trying very hard to get the thing back, is it's a way of administrating your DB2 from a GUI front end across multiple subsystems at any one time. You can scan as many as you register. It also sits within the same framework as our DevOps offerings, which again, we've just released new versions of that with extra enhancements in there to allow you to participate in the agile development world with Db2 for ZOS, pipelines, etc. So all that is all integrated there. But the Admin Foundation, and let me just share a screen for a moment. It seems that Zoom won't let me share. Right, I've just got to change that. So what this is, sorry about this, guys. I should have checked this first. Accessibility, Zoom. Okay, so hopefully I'll be able to share now. Nope, it still won't let me. Sorry, I can't.
Hang on a sec, Tom. Is Megan there? She's from technical support for the Zoom meeting. Can you help us, Megan?
I think it's
or
my
is it your end?
It's my options. It's my options.
Okay.
I can share on other Zooms, but this Zoom is not letting me.
I think you're co-host, aren't you? So it should work.
What? So let me.
I don't know. Is another option of maybe sending me or Marcus the files and we can show them for you?
It's all right. Let's have a look and see. I'll send them over to you, Colin. It's only a small number of them. Oh, I'll just talk to them. I've been here before, and it's I've done this before. So the big news was the Admin Foundation, and just this week we've released the tuning services portion of it. So now you can do SQL tuning, capture. Eventually, you'll be able to capture things from dynamic statement cache, etc. Run them through all your favorite tuning products. So the idea of the Admin Foundation, for those who have missed it, is the fact that it's ultimately going to replace Data Studio and DSM. And what that'll give us is the ability to provide better features, functions than are being supplied by the Data Studio. And everything we talked about with our customer advisory councils, etc., is the fact that they need the SQL tuning. They need the IDAA support that is there. So they're the number number one and number two features that are needed. So with Admin Foundation built on top of Zoe, integrating with DevOps. And in fact, if you purchase DevOps, you'll get Admin Foundation when you go to PTF 7, which is either just released or just about to. But you can manage all your DB2s from there. You can generate DDLs, you can run DDL, you can run SQL, command processors, everything that you would want to do or did do from Data Studio. Going to take us a little while to get all of the features in there. For example, IDAA is due for later this year. So, and what it gives you is the ability to discover all your objects, and you can access every single DB2 catalog for every single subsystem that you have registered in one query. So you can say, give us all the tables that start with Tom, and you'll be shown them. You can narrow down the search, obviously, to just one subsystem or to all of them. And you can filter those, you can customize them, you can do lots of things with it, sort of things that you would do, but it's just a common look and feel across all your DB2s. We'll also be augmenting it with the explorers that come with Jez, things like there's a Jez Explorer, there's an MVS Explorer, there's a USS Explorer. So if you've got a job that you run, you can click on it and we'll call it, and basically it's like having SDSF on your laptop. So and other things like syntax checking we do, site rules are done in the same way that the DevOps, it's all going to be integrated, so it'll all be one seamless thing. And the idea is to make people more productive quicker, so that they immediately can hit the ground running. So you could take an Oracle DBA, here you go, here's this user interface, and off you go. And they can start being at least productive in searching through. They don't need any of the constructs. They don't need to know ISPF for goodness sake, which is probably one of the most daunting things to people. And it's all done through it, and it's based on features that we have in our admin tools as well, and we can totally integrate that fully. The tuning services that have just come along, it's all your favorites. Optim, I'm going to get the name wrong. Query Workload Tuner, no, not Workload, Optim Query Tuner. Visual Explain is in there, all the old favorites, and it's been enhanced so you can search easily through it as well. So that's where we're going with that, and we've made a great strides on it. Other things we've got coming along, export to a CSV files. We're planning to integrate more fully with a dynamic statement cache. So it'll be your one-stop shop, and we've got future plans that are going to exploit much more than this. So that's the Admin Foundation, and that's the one that's coming along. It is free of charge. There is an optional SNS subscription, because we listen to customers, and a lot of them don't like having free software for some reason. They like to do the SNS support, so that's great. It also is integration in with the developer extensions as well, so we can integrate with those. So that's Foundation in a couple of minutes. I don't know how long I've been going on that, but other things that have been quite good. Log analysis tool has been enhanced, so that you, instead of having these mode files and having to go into the ISPF panels to regenerate jobs, excuse me, we now write out, or you can choose to write out, a JSON file. So if you wanted to change some of the search criteria, for example, you can go into the JSON file and change that, rather than have to go through everything, go through all the panels again. So that's a great improvement. And the excuse me, sorry, I'm choking here. There's also the ability to, I've lost my track there, to change to change all the log analysis options. So no need to keep going backwards and forwards into the panels, which was probably one of the more disliked parts of that. Cloning tool, we've enhanced for those who have it. You can now drop your target environment if you want. So you can get it to excuse me. You can get it to recreate all the objects for you. So that's quite nice and simple. So you don't have to go and check what's there. So you can just clear it all out. And we've also added in Apple Compact into there so that you can easier to fall back and move forward. Talking of Apple Compact and function levels, we are supporting all functional levels. And as I said before, Apollo, we have it here. We've done lots of integration and fallback testing on it, and it's all looking very good for that. So they're the two that the other one for log analysis tool that I was trying to think of was better processing of anything like a -803. If you get a -803, we usually just say, yeah, hey, there you go, you got a -803. Now we're going to tell you where the problems are, what the row was. We can have continue on ignores, so you can tell us what SQL statements we're allowed to ignore. So yeah, so I mean, our admin tool is if you have it, there's been lots of improvements on there to both support new function levels, but to increase the processing and build APIs, etc. for future use. Excuse me. Any questions? I'm sorry, that was a quick run through. I would have shown you a couple of the slides that I've done, but I should have checked that beforehand. So apologies for that.
Thanks, Tom, for battling through the frog in the throat.
Well done. Thanks.
Always the worst. We do have DevOps sessions at iDoug. We're planning on a DevOps DVM workshop, and we might be doing a DevOps one. It all depends on images, etc. that we can get there. But we're well represented at iDoug, so hopefully see some of you there. We'll see you on the screen anyway.
Fab. Thanks very much, Tom. Any questions? Okay. Do we have anybody else who wants to advertise the latest updates to their software? I guess not. Okay. Right, where were we? Agenda. So at 1 o'clock, we have Leslie Costabel doing a lunch and learn on imposter syndrome. And then at 2 p.m, back on this channel, we have Roberto Casson of BMC Software talking about DB2 profiles. That's a presentation that I have successfully missed over the last few times that he's delivered it. So I'm really looking forward to listening to what he has to say about DB2 profiles. So that's session 2AJ at 2 p.m. This was session 4A1, the DB2 Product Watch. Please fill in your feedback forms, but with these, the feedback forms for this, what we'd like is to hear what you would like to see. I like the fact that we can have an open session where we can have discussions about things. So please fill in the form and don't forget to give to the the charities that GSE are sponsoring this year, the Royal Lifeboat Association and Guide Dogs for the Blind. So have a great lunch, and we'll see you back here at 2 p.m.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Marcus. Cheers.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye all.